get into the good stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So, number 5, 1949, ranking in at 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, On the Town.
Oh, gorgeous. Gorgeous.
Yeah. New York, New York. Yeah, the Bronx is up and the battery's down. The people riding a hole in the ground. It's a great movie. It's fun. It's got a lot of similarities to Anchors Away.
Yeah.
In terms of vibe, a lot. Take Me Out to the Ball Game, kind of a similar kind of fun, kind of musical thing. Sailors on leave in New York City for 24 hours. What kind of antics are they going to get into? Which is very similar to Anchors Away. It's one of those things it's a romantic comedy, really, but the story's not that deep. It's not that broad. I mean, it's not that developed of a story where it's got lots of twists and turns or anything. You gotta know what you're going in for, but if you know what you're going in for and that's what you want, this is really about as high up as it gets. There's only a handful of lighthearted musicals that I feel have as much of a rewatch quality. Obviously, Singing in the Rain, I could watch probably every week and never get sick of. But like this is pretty high on the list too. On the Town, Anchors Away, like they're just fun, and you're gonna sing along all the time too.
And it's also another amazing showcase of just how freaking funny Frank Sinatra is. Like, he is so funny in On the Town.
And that's the same thing as always. He knows how to sell stuff. And if that's a dramatic monologue, a beautiful ballad, or a joke, he knows how to do it.
Oh, my number 5 is probably going to be a shocker. And I don't revisit this film a lot, but every time I do, I'm just like, this is why I love theater, but also another reason why I love Frank. And it's Neil Simon's Come Blow Your Horn. Another Oscar-nominated adaptation of Neil Simon's play with a couple changes and rewrites made by the late and great Norman Lear, actually.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And of course, Frank playing the older brother, Alan, of Tony Bill, Buddy, his younger brother, and basically influences his younger brother in every positive way possible of being a womanizing playboy, just like him. If not even better than Frank, which obviously angers the hell out of their father, played absolutely brilliantly by Lee J. Cobb. Don't you think it's always hilarious how Frank he's played these characters that are supposed to be younger, and yet his father figures or mother figures are only like 4 years older than him?
Yeah, but Lee J. Cobb has a presence about him that just feels older.
Very much
He's
so.
got intimidating quality. Did you ever see him play Willie Loman?
Oh, of course. Like, he's incredible. And that was the first thing he said to Frank on the set. He's like, I'm playing Willie Loman, and you're going to do what I say.
Your Lee J. Cobb sounds a lot like Fred Sanford.
It really does.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Willie Loman, you big dummy. Okay, number 4, previously mentioned, Anchors Away.
Ah, lovely.
It's really one of my go-to kind of comfort movies. And funnily enough, I only saw it for the first time maybe 15, 16 years ago. I was at the library and I saw it and I was like, I never saw this one. And I watched it, and the only part and I didn't realize it was from this at the time, but the only part I had seen prior to that was the scene with Gene Kelly and Jerry, the mouse, cartoon mouse dancing.
Yep.
Everybody had seen that. But then I watched the whole movie, and it was like, I think I need to watch this again right now. Because from early on, they sing this song, we hate to leave, but when they give you leave, you gotta leave. And like, I love the wordplay on it. I love how like jovial it was performed between the two of them with all the sailors. And there's a lot of that kind of fun choreography that's almost like punchlines. Like they use choreography to get a laugh. And it's just that kind of movie where it's a lot of fun. Frank's very young in this movie. It's the oldest movie on my top 10. Let me see, it was 1945.
Yeah.
1945, which means he's been 30 years old. Mm-hmm. So probably still in his 20s when they filmed it. Not only is Frank like top form in this, and he sings one of my favorite songs, I Fall in Love Too Easily.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's gorgeous.
beautiful song and really resonates with me.
Yeah.
But Gene Kelly is a real shining part of that movie for me. Not just the stuff with Jerry the Mouse that he does, but that smile of his does something to the viewer. And anybody who disputes that just doesn't know what they're talking about, because he's got that smile, man. Like, it's not a sexual thing. It's like a hug to the audience. And in a movie like this that's so lighthearted and sweet all the time, those kind of little moments really make everything pop, because you see him smile and you feel what the characters are feeling. It's not a movie that takes itself so seriously, because in a fantasy scene, he's literally dancing with an animated mouse.
Yeah.
So we're all suspending reality at this point and enjoying these characters that are on leave from the Navy. We're enjoying what they're doing. And of course, I fall in love too easily, because just like On the Town, it's got to have a romantic quality to it. The two of them have a bond, obviously, that there's a through line of the movie, but also the little boy of the woman that, you know, that Frank is falling in love with.
Little Dean Stockwell.
Dean Stockwell, which is crazy.
Crazy.
He doesn't even look like a little boy version of Dean Stockwell.
He doesn't look like Al, who would be traveling with Scott Bakula in random places.
No, he does not. He does not look like the Quantum Leap version of Dean Stockwell, what we know. But he was an adorable little child.
He was. He was a cute kid.
But I'm a huge fan of that movie, and
my number 4 is okay. Don't hate me. This might shock you, but my number 4 is Guys and Dolls.
Why would I hate you?
Yeah, because I feel it's just too low.
It's my number 3.
No kidding.
Yeah, so we're pretty close.
We're pretty close. That's hilarious. Oh, brilliant. I love it.
Yeah.
I tell you, Guys and Dolls was honestly my very first film I've ever seen of Frank Sinatra, ever. Very first. And I probably was maybe 7 or 8. And I remember seeing it and just being blown away by this cat. Who is this guy? He is just so damn cool, so damn awesome, and I want to be like him. And you know, we can all be honest that Nathan Detroit is probably a role that Frank could play in his sleep. I mean, it is such a iconic role that he just embodies through and through. But it's just amazing when we unpack and we find out the role he really wanted to play, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I mean, to me, Sky is much more of a Frank Sinatra role. I think, obviously, I mean, and he went on to sing Love Be a Lady to, you know, much acclaim later.
Yep.
But doesn't see the movie. My sensitive, kind of sensitive feelings towards Guys and Dolls is that I love the show more than most musicals. There's maybe 3 or 4 that hold a stronger place for me. Yeah. But I'm a huge... The movie, I have a lot of problems with.
Right.
But because I love the show so much, and I love Frank in the movie, that's why I have it at number 3.
Right.
Because it's Frank being Frank for the most part, like you said. Arguably one of the greatest, if not the greatest, film actor in history, Marlon Brando, horribly miscast.
Horribly
miscast in a role that, you know, I just did this show earlier this year.
Yes.
And it's a role that's very music heavy. Like, he's only got 3 or 4 songs, but they're important songs and they're ballads. Love Be a Lady's a big number. And if you have Frank Sinatra there and you're going to have someone else sing it, it seems like a wasted moment. Like, we got to figure a way to have Frank. Because Marlon, fantastic actor, but when it comes to singing, it's not really his strongest suit.
No,
you know?
Especially when you have your own choreographer of the Broadway musical as well as the movie, Michael Kidd, and he would call Brando on set, like him singing a mating call of a yak.
It's like Russell Crowe and Les Mis. What
Oh
is
God.
happening? What is
Stars in your multitude.
Yeah, that's what I used to always say. Like, my first foray into Guys and Dolls territory was when I was a kid, and I saw it at a high school. My aunt had directed a production of it, and the kid playing Sky was so good that was my first time seeing the show. I thought, this guy is the coolest person on the planet. And then I had seen the movie, and up until I think it was maybe I've Never Been in Love Before, or whatever Brando's first song is in that movie, it's like, this guy's so cool, because obviously when it comes down to playing a cool character, he's got it down. He's so smooth, he's so charming, and then it gets to, like, call you Lady Luck. And you're like, oh no! What happened, man? You had me. You had me the whole way. Without having to trash on Marlon Brando too much, because that's a really hard thing to do. And this is probably the only movie, with the exception of maybe The Island of Dr. Moreau or The Score, that you have the opportunity to bash on Marlon Brando.
You would have wanted to see Mr. Ryan Remark play the amazing Sky Masterson in the production in Las Vegas, which obviously was a huge, great success, right?
We did okay. It was a lot of fun. It's a fun show. But you know, we learned the same thing that I think we, as an audience, learned by watching that movie, is that the casting is very important with these roles. Very important who's stepping into this kind of familiar territory. And I'll always have kind of a sore spot for this movie, as much as I love it, because of that. Because it's like, I get why Brando got the part, because he's such a great actor and he was a huge star at the time. It's 1955. He's as big as it.
Yep, he just won the Oscar for On the Waterfront. So he's the guy. He's the guy.
Nobody's going to argue that. And while I don't care for his singing voice, the rest of the film, he really turns in a pretty solid performance.
Yeah.
Because he's charming and suave.
It was a friction and a half between Frank and Marlon on set. They did not like each other at all when they were on set. Mainly because, well, one, Frank really wanted the role of Terry Malloy in On the Waterfront, speaking of. He really wanted that role, but of course, Brando got it, and lo and behold, won the Oscar. And then here Frank is wanting Sky Masterson, and who do they give it to? The biggest box office draw at that time, Brando, and now he has to play, like, quote unquote second fiddle to Brando on set, and now he's having to put up with, you know, Brando's, you know, quote unquote method crap. He literally called it like, yeah, I'm not doing all that method crap that he's doing, whatever that's all about.
Two very different styles.
Yes, two very different styles. You know what was hilarious? Their first scene that they covered together, where Sinatra's eating the cheesecake. Brando purposely, like, flubbed each take on purpose just to mess with Frank.
Oh, wow.
And it took like multiple takes where Frank is just like, oh, son of a bitch. I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, friction is always, if you, especially, you know, us as actors, any time in which we wanted a role so badly and, you know, someone else got it, maybe it was someone that you didn't know, maybe it was someone that, you know, maybe you just didn't see what the draw was, but you were just thinking more about yourself, how much you really wanted that role. You know, that could just, you know, be in the air still when you have to work with them now on the next project. So
yeah,
it happens. Okay, so my number 3 is, and this was actually really hard, but I think it's in the right spot. Number 3, The Manchurian Candidate.
Woo!
God, I love The Manchurian Candidate so much. It's one of the best damn thrillers I've ever seen.
Did you feel the first time after you watched The Manchurian Candidate that maybe you yourself were a little brainwashed?
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
I felt like
Bastard's got me now.
He's got me going now. I feel like I'm gonna do something. He plays Major Bennett Marco just so simply and so chillingly that you're right alongside Frank Sinatra throughout the whole progression, the whole arc. And for those of you who don't know the story, you know, he plays the U.S. Army intelligence officer who served in the Korean War with Sergeant Raymond Shaw, played amazingly by Lawrence Harvey. I think he's one hell of an underrated actor as well. And Marco is battling through these horrendous nightmares of two members of his own squad being killed, like in cold blood, by Shaw due to a brainwashing operation done by communists when their squad was captured. And now Marco grows even more paranoid, believing it really happened. So he's got to do whatever he can to confront Shaw and save him, even if there might be an assassination of the new presidential nominee, which could lead to the downfall of the U.S. government. Whole lot of business going on.
Yeah, and they keep you right on the edge where, you know, the character's trying to figure out exactly what's real and what's going on, and so are you watching it.
Yeah.
On a repeated viewing, somehow, even though you know how things wrap up, it still keeps that tension for you, and that's John Frankenheimer, who directed the film, who knows how to do that. I mean,
Right.
even though the year 2000's Reindeer Games, this is John Frankenheimer in his prime, where the film has a pulse.
Yes.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Much like Janet Leigh's other film that you may recall, Psycho. Those type of movies, they have a pulse to them where you don't want to get up and go to the bathroom.
No.
Because you might miss something.
Yeah.
And you're in it. You're invested.
Yeah.
Pretty early on, too. You're invested. And The Manchurian Candidate's another example of a remake that did not need to be done.
Nope. Not at all. I mean, I love everyone involved, like the director Jonathan Demme, Denzel, Liev Schreiber, Meryl. Everyone's great, but yeah, it's just one of those things. It's like the remake of Psycho. This is not needed.
Right. Where the remake of Psycho was a bad movie. The remake of The Manchurian Candidate's not a bad movie, but it was checked on Rotten Tomatoes. 97% The Manchurian Candidate has.
Of course. And this film it's still like fairly underrated even to today. Like it was only nominated for 2 Oscars, only 2, for Best Editing as well as Best Supporting Actress, Angela Lansbury, which wholeheartedly deserved. But
we should make sure. It shocks me that was not nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah, or Best Director even, John Frankenheimer.
Yeah.
Like I would have thought for certain. And you know, this was one of the very few times where Frank Sinatra actually got along with his director of all time. Like he got on set and he was like one of the biggest proponents of just like, let's get this done. Like I want to oversee like everything about this whole film because he just loved the script so much and he loved everything surrounding it. He even a lot of the producers said like Frank was getting to the point of like being a mob boss to John Frankenheimer, where he'd go up to John Frankenheimer and be like, hey, yeah, I'd like to see the dailies, you know, later on, you know, especially when it goes on Lawrence Harvey's coverage. And John Frankenheimer was like, oh, that's great. That's great, Frank. I love your enthusiasm, but, you know, we just don't have a lot of that done. We'll have to wait until post until that really gets done. And he's like, let me tell you something. I'm going to see these dailies, whether they're done or not.
It'd be a shame if something were to happen to your dailies.
Yeah. I'd hate for your Frankens to be himed.
Yeah, you don't want to have your Frankenheimed. The Manchurian Candidate kind of grabs onto you early on, and you're invested the whole way through.
Of course. It's just so unbelievably powerful. And I tell you just how horrifically prophetic this film was too, because you know, especially when this film came out, what happened just a number of months later. President Kennedy would be assassinated. And thus began like a whole speculation on the film being taken out of distribution because of that.
Well, and I'm sure that, you know, Frank's relationship with Kennedy probably didn't make that less newsworthy, you know.
Correct. That final moment that he has with Lawrence Harvey after, you know, I won't spoil it if you guys haven't seen it because it's but like the final deed is done and you hear the gunshot and we only have that shot on Frank and just the look on his face is just like both it's a combination of victory and it's such terror. Speechless. It's speechless.
It's all you need. it's all you need in that moment, because to see the shot taking place would be infinitely less powerful than the way they did it.
Yep. I guess I gotta talk about number two, man.
I'm just trying to guess in my head what you're gonna pick, and
Yeah,
if it's not this one right now, I know what your number one is.
yeah.
But
Well, I'll share with you my number two, and it was really hard for me because it really kind of like ties. It really does tie with number one, The Man with the Golden Arm, because
oh, all right, I forgot. Yeah, I forgot we talked about that. Yeah.
yeah, I just the first time I saw this, man, I was literally blown away by Frank's magnetism and power that he has in the performance as Frankie Machine. And especially when you have Elmer Bernstein's just iconic score behind it with that classic theme, da 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 dun, him just walking through, I'm just like, there's nothing better. This is like the perfect theme, one for just Frankie Machine, the character, but just Frank Sinatra alone. It's just like within this context as well. It's unbelievable. And this obviously earned him his only Oscar nomination for Best Lead Actor, and wholeheartedly deserved, as he plays Frankie Machine, fresh out of jail and sober. He's a slick card dealer returning to life in Chicago with his supposedly wheelchair-bound wife, Zosh, played by Eleanor Parker, who is just sadistically amazing in this. And as his dark past comes back, he may have to fight off his addiction again, which is never revealed, but is very much hinted at heroin.
It's totally heroin. Yeah, they never say.
Yeah, because of course, production codes still, even at this time of the late 50s. But this is a Frank that honestly, like, we still have never really experienced before. And like John Frankenheimer, director Otto Preminger really like exposes us to like the deep, dark side of Frank and what he adds to it. And this role was originally going to be played by John Garfield, whom I freaking love. But of course, John Garfield's unfortunate death put that aside. But we were absolutely blessed to have Frank like step into this. And it was the same thing. Once he read the script, he was just like, he actually never read the script. He saw the idea and he saw like the first like pitch of it, and he's like, I'm doing it. Like this sounds like a meaty role that I could really sink myself into. And to prepare for it, he actually spent time at a drug rehab clinic, observing addicts and then seeing them go cold turkey, and then playing off of their mannerisms, playing off of their actions, of their body language, of who they were. And even to the point of learning how to play drums by the great drummer Shelly Manne.
Yeah, they're not afraid to get a little bit gritty and ugly with what's going on in order to convey the truth of what's happening in this story. This is the only movie of Sinatra's career that I'm aware of that really gets to that dark of a place. You know what I mean?
Very much.
Addiction, a darker kind of through line than even a character. He's played characters that have died before, so it goes dark in that way. But a different kind of dark.
Very much so, yeah. And especially I love the shot where he's thrown into the prison cell once more in the latter half, and the camera just sits on him. And you could see like all the years, all the time that he spent going clean, and now to be just dumped right back to where he was. And just the camera is just like literally just sinking into him as he's just like hanging on the prison bars and just sweating and panting, and you just feel everything in that whole shot. It's a phenomenal performance from Frank.
They linger on shots like that. I don't know, there's a few of those in the movie where they kind of linger a little bit longer because you eventually start to really overthink the moment. And I think that's what they're doing. They're doing that on purpose because like you might just see him like, oh, I'm upset that I'm in jail again, blah, blah, blah. But when you look at it and you have enough time to sit and think, it's not just that he's been thrown back in a cell. All of the good and progress that has been made is now wiped clean. And you know what I mean? And you're starting from scratch all over again. It's a really hurtful kind of moment. And it should be painful for the audience as well.
Yep.
And yeah, lingering on that kind of stuff really drives it home.
Yeah.
And his face there is a heartbreaker.
Let's talk about our 5 honorable mentions. So how about you go through your 5 honorable mentions, down the line, and then I'll go through my 5, and then we'll big reveal.
Okay, so honorable mentions, I would have to say, I would be remiss to not mention Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where he sings as the sword, the ghost sword.
Yeah.
He sings witchcraft for like 10.
Witchcraft.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, and also, I think he's only in 2 scenes in it, maybe 2 scenes in the Cannonball Run 2.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah, remember him in Cannonball Run 2?
Yes.
And that's Frank, because that's like in the 70s. Like that's like old Frank. He didn't need to be there. He didn't need the money. All his buddies were in that movie. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm not. Oh. Like there's one of his scenes. He's just in the car the whole time.
Yeah, exactly.
The biggest one to me, that if we would have done a top 11, this would have been for 11, and it's The Detective.
Yes.
Good movie. I don't think it's super fantastic. It's a good movie, but the only reason it's a special mention is because it was the obvious setup for a film I'm actually going to watch the 35th anniversary of today in the movie theaters. Yeah.
No kidding. That's amazing.
Yeah. The Tender Trap. Not a great movie, honestly.
Nope. Yep.
But that song, man, I love that song, The Tender Trap. I love it. So honorable.
Yeah. Frank and Debbie are cute together. They.
Yeah, she's so adorable, especially when she was younger like that. I mean, what a sweet little Debbie Reynolds. Who doesn't love Debbie Reynolds?
Who doesn't love it? If you don't, get the hell out of here.
Get on out.
Get on out.
Take your hate with you. Von Ryan's Express.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a fun one.
Yeah. World War II-ish, I think it takes place during, right? Wasn't it World War II? Yeah.
Mine, I could even talk about None But the Brave, which is actually Frank's first and only directorial effort of a film.
I did not realize he directed that.
Yeah. And like we said about Tender Trap, this is not a great film either. It really isn't, but I always have to give props to any actor, any artist, especially who comes from such a background of music, and to go into direct a full-fledged World War II drama. To even mention Can. Again, not a good film. Oscar nominated still, based on the Tony Award-winning Broadway musical. I do love how Frank sounds when, of course, he just sings "C'est Magnifique." But he gives what he can, especially with it being another Cole Porter musical and his own production company producing it. And of course, I have to mention High Society.
Yeah.
If I could have this like a top 15, top 20, it would definitely be on there. I just love how Frank Sinatra takes over the Jimmy Stewart role of the Philadelphia Story, which is obviously what the movie is, a musical adaptation of the Philadelphia Story. Ocean's 11, of course, the quintessential Rat Pack film. And then Von Ryan's Express, indeed. I love that. And famously, he was able to meet Mia Farrow on the set of the film. And the crazy business that transpired after that, of course, where he made an ultimatum with her.
Have you seen the photos of Ronan Farrow where he's like, "Oh, Woody Allen is totally my dad, don't believe whatever," and then there's like a picture of Ronan Farrow, a picture of Woody Allen, and a picture of Frank Sinatra, and you're like, "Yeah, you're Woody Allen's son. What are you doing?" You have bright blue eyes and the exact same face as your dad. You look exactly like Frank Sinatra. It's unbelievable.
Unbelievably obvious. When they got married, how Frank made the ultimatum to Mia about doing The Detective, with Frank. He's like, either you do this movie with me, The Detective, and you'll be a big star, I promise you, or I leave you. I leave you if you're gonna do that little, horror movie, Rosemary's Baby.
Which, I mean, honestly, if you have to compare The Detective and Rosemary's Baby, Rosemary's Baby is significantly better. I mean,
I think Mia made the right move there. Yeah. Even if its director is a bit questionable, But
Yes, I'm not going to applaud Roman Polanski as a person, but that film was well made.
very well made. Very, very well made. Oh, all right, man. Here we are at numero uno, and I can only guess what it must be. Maybe we'll have to say it at the same time. What could it be?
It is From
From
Here to
here to eternity.
Absolutely.
Oh my,
Without only one I didn't have to think about. Number one, with
that's
a bullseye.
1000%.
Come on.
Absolutely. Frank's only, well, it's amazing what, we'll get into later, but his only Academy Award winning performance for Best Supporting Actor.
I got to see that Oscar at his restaurant at the Wynn. Yeah, they have it in a glass case.
Gosh, that's right.
Talk
Yeah.
about a well-earned Oscar. Regardless of whether you believe all the hype that him getting the position was the Godfather story, where like he got the position because of who he is or whatever.
Right.
Regardless, you believe, and I don't believe that that's a true story, but even if you do believe that, you really can't discredit the performance that he gives as Maggio in this movie. I mean, he knew from the get-go this was a part for him. This was the one that he needed. He knew he could bring to this movie something that other people couldn't do. He got the character, like the character is very similar to him in a lot of ways, but dissimilar in others. But man, I mean, talk about hitting out of the park in a movie filled with great performances.
Huge. I know it's phenomenal ensemble. Phenomenal.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and that iconic shot from, with Burt Lancaster, was Deborah Kerr
Yeah.
on the ground. Like, that is something etched into people's memories. And when you think of that movie, that's the first thing I think of is that shot.
Yep.
But then I think Frank, because supporting actor, well-deserved, playing an alcoholic, and then, like, spoiler alert, suffering such a brutal beating, and then die anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And his little exchange with Monty Clift right there, right before he dies, is just so sad. It's so passionate, but it's just like he knew exactly like this has got to be an Oscar moment for me. Like this has got to be like something where I'm gonna get recognized. I gotta get noticed.
Yeah. Well, in one of the books that I read, a biography, he kind of knew, like, the character itself, like, I could win an Oscar for this, even before he got the part, which is why he campaigned so much to get it. Because he knew, like, the part that I can do well.
Mm-hmm.
And, whew, yeah, for sure.
They say specifically it was his second wife, Ava Gardner, who was able to get him that role because she knew Harry Cohn. And she had worked with Columbia Pictures, so and he owed everything to Montgomery Clift on set, and Burt Lancaster for the filming. This role was still, it gave him that stretch, it gave him that challenge of like, oh, I can actually like stretch myself as an actor here, but I'll need some real good coaching in order to get there. And he said Monty Clift was like one of his dear friends that helped him get there, and who better than to help you get there than Monty Clift. Man.
And what a performance he gives too. I mean, it's really just a lineup of great performances, and this is a movie that really, in the last 30 years, there has really been a lot of movies like the Titanic or Pearl Harbor, where they take a true story and they add a fictionalized story to it. And this is the way you do that, though, really. This is a World War II story that's a romantic tale.
Yeah.
And ultimately kind of breaking, but this is the way to do it.
Very much so. Like, it's a classic World War II soap opera. Like, it's a gritty, darkened soap opera where we are intertwined between all these different lives and different situations that are going on, and leading up to a catastrophe that's happening on Hawaii. It's unbelievable. Did you know that Frank's salary for this movie was only $8,000?
I knew that he took a huge cut for it because he wanted to do it so badly.
Yeah. Which in retrospect, in inflation to today, that's only $92,000. But even so, when you think of himself as a big star, I mean, he even wasn't at this time because, like we said, he was struggling. to get good parts.
Well, I'm sure you could count on one hand how many times the Academy has given an Oscar to somebody that got paid $8,000 for their work.
Very much so. Burt Lancaster has summed up what he talked about Frank Sinatra. His fervor, his bitterness had something to do with the character of Maggio, but also with what he had gone through the last number of years. There was a sense of defeat and the whole world crashing in on him, and they all came out in that performance, and that's just spot on.
Aside from what you might need as a cathartic experience during the production, that's something that lives forever now as a cathartic experience for other people to watch. If they need, if they need something they're going through that kind of stuff, and they can, kind of relate to the work that you've done and relive that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the comeback of all comebacks.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a huge moment for him.
Yeah, man. And what's funny is, like, that's not the only Oscar that Frank Sinatra has, funny enough. So
wait, what?
Yeah, so with that, he won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, but just 8 years previously, he won an honorary Oscar for producing a little short film called The House I Live In, where he plays himself and he teaches a group of young boys a lesson in religious tolerance. It was very much a infomercial of the time, but it's incredibly inspiring. Like, when you look at his giving spirit of where he was as just a singer and just a human being, the whole film was just based on helping kids, like, remember the value of, human interaction and human connection. But then years later, in 1971, he was given the Jean Hersholt Humanitarian Oscar for his humanitarian work.
I did not know either one of those things happened.
Yeah.
Knowledge, Alex.
Oh no, that's what we love to do here. We love to have with knowledge. It just goes to show, like, besides of being just the world's greatest crooner, the world's greatest nightclub singer, and greatest example of singer turned actor, like, he really did care about blessing others. I could listen for hours and hours on end of specifically Don Rickles' stories of being with Frank and just how much fun they would have together. I could watch endlessly the Dean Martin roast variety shows.
Best, man. I mean, here we are how many years later, and my entire wall it's all Frank records.
It's amazing. Oh my God. I love it so much.
It doesn't go out of style. Not some people. Some people will hold on to it forever. He's an artist that has certainly changed my life, which, some people don't think that that's possible, that a piece of art or an artist of any kind can really affect your life that much because you don't know them personally. But I couldn't disagree more. Right. I mean, movies and music have enhanced my life in so many ways that I can't imagine it without it. And a lot of that is the work of Frank Sinatra.
Dude, I can't thank you enough for carving out this time, for us to get together, talk about him, and being able to share about this. It's just all the most fun. And I implore every single one of the audience members here to please catch Mr. the amazing Ryan Remark when he does his performances. Because are you all done with your performances in Ohio?
We're doing one on the 22nd in Canton, Ohio. For all of your viewers in the Canton area of Canton, Ohio, we will see you. And for those of you that don't live in Canton, take a road trip.
Yes. We're on the road to Canton, Ohio.
Pro Football Hall of Fame is there, so that can be your reason for going, and then just swing by and see me on your way.
Yes, I think it's a holiday trip that's worth having. Give your listening ears a sincere pleasure to listen to his crooning, magical voice that is that combination of Fergie and Jesus. So you're welcome.
Thank you so much, Alex, and thank you for having me on here because this was a lot of fun. This was great. And it's nice to have conversations with like-minded people about similar interests.
Oh, of course. Oh, absolutely. And I know we'll still be talking about, more films to come every day, which I
More-
can't get enough of.
I know I text you once or twice a week. Hey, did you see this one?
Yes, please. Thank you so much, brother. Thank you all so much for watching. And please, if you haven't already, please like, subscribe. Check out, like I said, more events to come up for Mr. Ryan Remark for more of his amazing, amazing shows and music. And please check out the Patreon page, which obviously more content is happening on there, which you can just sign out all just simply for a cup of coffee a month. I mean, you can't deny that. But until next time, I am Alex.
I am Ryan.
The magical, remarkable Ryan. And we wish you all happy holidays. Take care, guys.